we recorded the entire first season of the show, and once it was going out the door of the studio folded. It was just one of those things where there were some people from Funimation who, because of a corporate changeover, left the company, and they started their own anime company. They bought properties through the contacts that they had made, and the properties that we worked on, one of them was Beat the Vandal Buster, another one was AM Driver, and another one was called BitX. And we recorded the first season of all of those and the second season of Beat, and tried to get them all out in the stores. And for a time, you could buy Beat in stores. And AM Driver, oh my God. AM Driver, we tried to get it out because that seemed to be the show that would hit. Because it really played into what was popular at the time.
Well, On Demand showed the first 2 episodes, and it's terrific. And it was impossible to find.
Yeah, and it still is. And it's because of the contracts that company had. The company, and I don't know, I mean, I was just a director, so I don't know exactly how it worked. I know that we recorded everything, and then one day they said, we don't need you to come back to the studio. Sure. So I was like, all right, I'm doing my best here, and it was tragic because we had a great time working at that studio, and then because of money, I mean, it's very simple. There's, a company needs money to function, so they get investors to come in, and then when they can't get their product out the door and sold, i.e. they can't get more money to come in, then this money goes away, and they have to shut their doors. Now, the Illumitoon website is still up. And I think, I haven't checked in a while, I think you might still be able to order some DVDs on their website. Yeah. So, there you go. I know that some of the people are still working on trying to get that, like Phoenix to rise again. But I don't know if it'll ever happen at this point, which is too bad because the show's possibly okay.
I got a question.
ILLUMITO.
Wasn't Boba Bobo one of their titles too?
We didn't do that show. Illumitoon just picked up that show for distribution.
Right.
So they bought the property along with 1 or 2 others, and they were going to purchase that and just distribute the DVD. Through their distribution contacts. Feedback.
As a director, do you ever have any influence in what properties get picked up by a studio?
No. No, absolutely not.
You can't break those and say, let's do this.
No, and I with Funimation, no, I haven't directed for Funimation for a long time because I focused on acting and writing. When I was directing for them, I was directing, writing, and acting, and by the end of the day, I just wanted to go to sleep. So, thank you.
Hello. Oh, what great relief. Hey, Tony. That's right. That's what I thought. So,
as a director or a voice actor, do you ever get to meet the creators of the shows or the manga?
Sometimes. I mean, I haven't personally gotten to meet a lot of the creators of the shows because I haven't been up at the studio when they've come through. We kind of got this question yesterday. Somebody asked if we've gotten to meet anybody cool or special at the studio when we've been up there. I haven't. I'm never up there at the right time. Cool people come through the studio. No, that's not true. You know what? I should have been on my game yesterday. So I'll answer the question. Snoop Dogg's bassist came through the studio a few months ago and sat in on a voice session that I did. That was neat. He's a real nice guy. So other than that, I don't get to. But sometimes the creators or people who have worked on the show come over from Japan, and they like to see what we're doing. They like to make sure, they like to be hands-on. They like to make sure that what we're doing is true to their work. You know, for a long time, that's not how this industry was run. We would take shows and do what we wanted to. And, you know, that was what Dragon Ball Z did in the very beginning. We just kind of did what we wanted to. And on a few other shows, I know that that was the case, not necessarily with studios I worked with, but with others, that things were changed. And now we try to stay as honest as possible. And I think that they enjoy coming over here and making sure that we stay on task. And we enjoy having them come over and know that we do. So that happens, yeah. But yes.
I know, like, for example, for Hitalia, the script change, there were some quite a bit of script changes and stuff. Was that just because sometimes those it doesn't translate that well? Or? That's
right, yeah. She's asking about the script changes in Hitalia from the Japanese into the English version. Here's the trick. Who speaks Japanese? Anybody? Little? Okay. So, what you know about Japanese, if you speak it, is that Japanese, if you read a translation that's directly translated from Japanese into English, and there's a joke, the joke translates backwards. The punchline comes first, and then the joke is told. And you cannot do that in English. We do not tell our jokes that way. This is a cultural difference. So what we have to do is rewrite that. Well, when you take, also a lot of Japanese jokes are culturally related and do not translate into English. So as the writers on Hitalia, who are now scripting a show for an English-speaking audience, not just in North America, but in other English-speaking countries around the world, the job of those writers is to take those jokes, those moments, and make them accessible to all of those different audiences. It's an incredibly difficult job that they have. So they've got to take a joke that's been reversed, re-reverse it, look at it, say, does that work? And if it doesn't work, make up a new joke that does work. And the fact that in Hitalia they did that, and I would say 99% of the time they do work, I was impressed with. You know, the writers on that show are two friends of mine, and I mean, once I got in the booth and started voicing, I was really impressed. I didn't have to do a whole lot of in-booth rewrites on that show or change anything, which is fantastic for me. So that's kind of what has to happen on that show. That kind of thing has to happen on comedies a lot. On the dramas or the horrors or whatever, you don't have to deal with that very much. Yeah. Who else got? Yes.
My question is, like for instance, today animation comes out, directed the first season, then all of a sudden, you could say after,
Hold on. Let Tony shut up. Okay, now what?
Or that can't speak that anymore, or budget cuts, and they sometimes have to drop.
Yeah.
Instead of season, this is a possible. Or what?
You mean like his question is if an actor loses his voice or her voice, or an actor passes away? You're basically asking about recasting, right?
Give me his
The budget?
The question is, I saw a lot of shows where they
I don't know about that. I mean, I know that I'm not sure about what happens with, like, that's a question for producers. You know what I mean? I can tell you what happens with casting on those kinds of moments where somebody does where you do need to recast, because that kind of stuff happens. As far as the budget issues and why a show does or does not come back for a second season, there's a million different reasons why. Sometimes a company doesn't pick up the contract because they choose not to. You know, sometimes the contract for the second season is much more expensive than the first season. Sometimes, here's something else. Sometimes these Japanese companies sell their shows in blocks. So in order to purchase one show, you actually have to purchase, say, 5. Okay? And you can't purchase less than that. You have to get those 5. And you have to end up recording and releasing those 5. But maybe your company doesn't have enough money or enough resources to release and distribute those 5 properties. You only have enough for the one property that you want. So you can't pony up the money for 5 properties, so it has to sit on the shelf. You know, that kind of thing happens. That's not necessarily what I have dealt with or the companies I work with have dealt with, but that's a possibility. As for recasting, we have had actors who've passed away, unfortunately. Steve Sanders was a great guy, did a lot of vocal work for us, and he passed away from colon cancer a few years ago, and we had to recast him. We found people who did a similar voice to him, but we didn't want somebody who did a voice match because Steve was too damn good. So we changed it up enough, and I think people were respectful of the fact that he passed away. That wasn't that he was doing a bad job, you know. And there are other instances where somebody's recast, and like FMA Brotherhood, Aaron Dismuke, you know, he played Al. He played Al. The first time around, but he was 10.
Woman Alchemist.
Right?
But he sounds exactly the same in Corpse Princess.
I know, right? But he didn't know that he could do that. So they recast him with Maxie Whitehead for FMA Brotherhood, and she does a great job. But the good news is this has led Aaron to do bigger and better roles, and you know, nobody wants to be pigeonholed into doing one thing. As an actor, you want to branch out and move on and do other things. So recasting is not necessarily always a bad thing. It can lead on to greater things. Anybody else? Yes?
I wanted to ask, do you prefer directing your own scripts or other people's scripts?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I prefer directing my own scripts because it's my research is done when I don't have to do the research. I don't have to go home and review the scripts. I've done that when I was writing them. So it just makes it easier. It's not a preferential thing on the words. It's just less homework for me to have to do, you know? And I hated homework when I was a kid. I hate homework when I'm an adult. So, you know, that's really the only reason. Yeah.
Are your own film projects animated or live action?
Live action. Yeah, I can't draw anything. I can't draw a card. I swear, I'm terrible. So yeah, they're live action. They're short films right now. They're in distribution around the world, and you can find them. If you live in Canada, you can find all of them on television. You know, that's it. Right now, I'm working on a television series in Dallas that, you know, may or may not air. We'll see. But I'm directing that right now, and you know, that's fun. It's more like it's like sitcom style, and I've never directed that before. It's kind of strange. Comedy is weird. I hate comedy for the fact that you're shooting something that's hilarious and no one can laugh. So that kind of sucks. So everyone, you shoot the whole scene and then you stop and everyone looks at each other and goes, "Was that funny? Was that funny?" I don't know. I thought it was funny. So anyway, yeah.
Have you ever directed an animated same as the director having scripting changes that you were talking about earlier?
The director has total control in anime. The director can make as many changes to a script as he or she wants. You can change whatever. I mean, when I was 12 years old, I did my first commercial. It was a Taco Bueno commercial, and I walked on to set, and the producer came up to me, and he said, "I want you to remember one thing on this commercial. You need to know that the director is God. Period." Okay. And that is something that I've held with me to this day. My son now, who's 18 and acting himself, we participate in I have a community theater that I work with in Dallas, and I teach classes there, I direct plays there, and my son's been in, just over the past 6 months, I think he's done 5 plays. And I tell him the same thing. The director is God. That director wants you to do something, you do that, period. And that's why he keeps getting cast. That's why other kids don't get cast, because they give their directors a hard time. So, did I answer your question? Okay, good. Sorry, I started to ramble there for a second. Yeah.
Quick question for you. When they remake shows, like for example, the new Dragon Ball Z, they basically remade it and obviously recast for the voices. They're completely different. Do they ever go back to the original cast and say, what did you do? Or can we get hints or any kind of Q&A from you guys? Or
No. No, no one cares what I think. As an actor, no, not at all. I mean, I just went into the booth last week to start recording Trunks in DBZ Kai. Until then, until the week before last, I wasn't even sure I was doing the role. No one ever came to me and actually said, "You absolutely are going to be Trunks in DBZ Kai." If you look online, they posted the whole cast list.
Yeah.
You never saw my name on there as being absolutely cast or absolutely recast. They had every other cast member on the whole series. Everybody who was coming back and everybody who had been recast, except for future Trunks. So I go online and I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Does that mean they're gonna keep me? Not keep? I don't know. And I would talk to the director, who's a good friend of mine, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll have you back in soon." When soon? A little while. Well, that doesn't sound like soon. It sounds like a little while. And the producer would say to me, "Hey, are you excited about coming back for Trunks?" I'm like, I would be if I knew I was. And he'd just, yeah, you will. Are you sure? I don't know.
What about as a director?
As a director,
like when they remake the series and like update it, do they generally stick with the same director that did the old one, or? I
mean, yeah, the directors are certainly consulted, but things change so often that, yeah, when things are remade, and the remake stuff is very rare. I mean, I think we've dealt with it. Full Metal and Dragon Ball Z. That's the only 2 I can recall.
What about Initial D, the redub rerun on that?
Okay, now what we're talking about is, see, that's different. See, the Funimation did Full Metal and then it was redone, Dragon Ball Z and then it was redone, and we had both of those properties in-house. So both of those times we had the same cast and crew for the most part, and the same directors for the most part. And yeah, the directors and producers were certainly consulted. On Initial D and One Piece, both of those shows were not part of our company. They existed in another production house, and for whatever reason that I'm not aware of, though those contracts were lost with those companies and came over to us, and then it was our job to fix what was broken, apparently, you know. And so we take one piece and we look at it and we go, okay, that's busted, that's busted, that's busted. We fix these things, start here. Like with One Piece, we came in at season 3 and started recording season 3 and then finished up to where we could, and then went back to season 1 and did it all the way up to the beginning of season 3, if I remember correctly. And that's exactly the same thing we did with Initial D. We started with the movie, which is stage 3, went all the way through the end of season 4, and then went back and recorded seasons 1 and 2. So, you know, that wasn't so much a consultation issue as it was kind of starting a brand new show. We just kind of approached it like it's something brand new, and we just take it from the beginning. But it was weird because it's kind of like working backwards, you know, because here we are, we got a show and it's brand new, but we're starting right dead in the middle and working toward the end and then going back to the beginning. So I was lucky enough to be head writer on both of those shows. So I had to watch all of it and then come in and start writing everything perfectly in the middle and make sure that whatever they're taught, like, you know, in One Piece, they're talking about stuff that happened in one episode, you know, in season 2. You know, they're talking about one thing that happened in episode 54. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I gotta go back and look in episode 54 and find that one line that they, okay, cool. And then I gotta go back and write it. And then, when I come all the way back around to writing episode 54, I have to go back to episode 80 and make sure that those two things match up. So it was really tough. And the same thing with Initial D. It was hard.
So how close do you work with the translators?
Well, I don't work with them. I get the translation.
And then
I just go off of that. Yeah, so I'll have a translation there and look at it, and you know, sometimes the guys translating it, they are just translators. That's their job. Their job is to sit down, translate, move on. So they don't know story, they don't know character, they know words. So sometimes things don't translate, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, you gotta kind of, my buddy Taliesin, he calls it seeing the matrix, you know? You kind of have to see through the words a little bit and see the intention behind it and see what they were kind of getting at to understand where it was coming from, you know? So it's kind of a tedious process sometimes, but it's what you have to do. And it takes years to really learn how to do that. So it's tough. It's really, really tough. Who else has a question? No? Okay, thanks, bye.
I'll keep going.
No.
Do you prefer acting to directing, or do you prefer directing to acting?
I guess it kind of depends on what we're talking about. I prefer, I don't know, I've been acting forever.
Okay.
Acting is certainly fun, and the fun thing about acting is that you can leave it. You can leave your acting at the studio, you can leave your acting at the set or the stage. For the most part, directing follows you. You're, like I was talking about homework, your directing goes home with you. You're always a director if you're a director. You're going home to do your research, you're always thinking about it. If you're at, you're at a film set, you're always setting up the next shot, and when you're going home, you're always thinking about the next day. Same thing if you're in a studio, you are always thinking about the next line, or who's the next actor coming in, or how are you going to direct them, you know, so there are benefits to it all. I enjoy directing more because I enjoy the communication that you get from there's a certain thing where when an actor isn't understanding exactly how to portray a certain emotion or a certain moment, and I can get inside that actor's head and use words to communicate to them, and then it clicks. The actor goes, I got it. And then they perform it perfectly. There's no moment like that. And as a director, that's the best feeling. And I love that. And that I think is the one thing that would make directing more fun for me. But they're right neck and neck, really. You know, if I could do them both forever, I would. So, yeah, back there in the white.
Well, I was curious, you know, talking about the whole how like the script a lot, but they I was just reminded of how the decisions for what they did the ghost stories about, which is very serious, something that is completely funny.
What, now, how did, with...
It's the series Ghost Stories.
Uh-huh.
Like, they almost completely change up the entire mood of it because a lot of like were ad-lib apparently, because it's a fairly serious series, you know, kind of literally Ghost Stories and whatnot, but they changed so much of what it is in the English version that it's just comedy in Japanese version, but it ends up being comedy in English version.
Well, you know, I did just one voice on that show, and I wasn't in the booth very long. And so I didn't know a whole lot about what was going on that show, and I didn't participate in directing or writing it. I don't either. I mean, I know the director who worked on that show, and I know that, I mean, I honestly haven't seen that. I haven't seen the show. I mean, I worked on it, but I haven't sat down and watched it, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
My friend sat me down with her and I had seen some of the show, and he put it on the English dub and put on the Japanese subtitles, and just the difference between them was so staggering.
Yeah, but this goes back to what I was talking about before. Is it? You know?
Like something that was fairly serious.
Go for a walk. You don't want to be here.
And see, that's the other thing, though. It comes down to it all comes down to interpretation. You know, the interpretation of the show by the director. Does the director sit down and see it as more of a comedic show or more of a thriller? And I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know because I haven't seen it.
Pop culture references, which of course would never translate.
Right.
I don't think the Japanese have a thing against Christian Slater, but clearly Greg Ayers and Chris Patton did, and it was very funny.
Yeah.
But they talked about, they're all credited with scripting it. Greg and Chris and all those guys are all credited with script on it.
Well, wait, what studio did it come out of?
ADD.
Oh, then I didn't work on it at all.
Yeah, I didn't remember you being involved in it.
Oh, I don't know. I take absolutely no responsibility for that whatsoever. I have no clue I don't take any responsibility for Greg or Chris or anything they do.
The only example of something like that I know.
Well, you know, sometimes there are shows. Remember when I was talking earlier about the package shows? I don't know anything about this show, just as a caveat to what I'm about to say. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was with this show. But I can tell you for sure that there are some shows, when they are shows,